not gonna say it, somebody should. Let's talk about two-time, let's talk about bum one, yeah. Asking the questions that nobody could. Like, where are the bone thugs and are they in harmony? Do you're a helpful snowman.
Well, hey everybody, I'm going to do a road show. I haven't done one on the regular feed for a little while, but I got to pick up groceries today. I'm just feeling like, what a waste of time. That's the incredible sound of a garage door. And I'm walking past in my garage a box that's about as tall as I am, which contains a new hot water heater, because ours broke. I get in the shower on Friday last week, and the water's mighty chilly. And, I immediately suspected, I wonder if something's wrong with the water heater. Sure enough, I go downstairs, and the water I finish the shower. I take a cold shower. I did a cold plunge, everyone. I did it. Against my own will, not because I wanted to, because I think it's got a health effect, but because our hot water heater was broken. I was thinking was funny the other day. I was like, we've come full circle. I mean, I feel like a lot of things work this way, but we've come full circle into rich people doing what poor people do, or people having enough resources and means that they are intentionally cutting off because, they think they'll be better off or something. It's a very crazy way of thinking in general. I see this a lot, right? It's like, oh, yeah, ancient people didn't do this and primitive man didn't do that. So we're not really meant to process these food items or, here's what our lives are meant to be like, evolutionarily speaking or whatever. And I'm always very skeptical of those things because I'm like, I think there are a lot of things about ancient man that, hasn't that ship sailed? I mean, what things about being an ancient primitive person could I possibly replicate at this juncture? You know what I'm saying? I really don't think I can. Oh my God. This person turned out on the road and then is like, I think I'll go 10. Why speed? Why get up to speed? Just, this is a good speed. Anyway, what things could I recreate? Do you know what I'm saying? I live in a house that has carpet in it and climate control. It just feels to me like it's there's this idea of fitness or wellness or whatever. And I think there's this idea of if you do something that sucks, it's probably better for you. You know what I mean? I'm like, this is probably because people, never enjoyed the taste of broccoli. And so they're like, well, bad things that are difficult to eat are probably the best for me. Or things that I don't actually want to eat are probably the best for me health-wise. Which, I don't know. I don't know if that's true. But, yeah, it was just funny. I was taking a cold shower without meaning to. And just thinking well, I'm supposed to get all these great health effects from it. I gotta say, a cold shower pretty much seemed the same as a hot shower, except not as pleasant. You know what I mean? It was harder to make sure I was completely clean because I was the whole time being I just kind of want to get the hell out of here. I will say that if you were a super environmentally conscious person, it kind of seems like if you took I'm not going to say cold shower, because I'm not sure. I don't know what the efficacy cleaning wise of warm versus cold water is. And I think most like cold plunge or cold shower things are like, well, you take a shower and then you also take a, 30-second cold shower at the end or something. But I will say that it would probably help you save water because there's I'm not lost in thought when the shower is all cold water. That's for goddamn sure. No danger of that happening. Anyway, so I take this cold shower, and you know what the other thing is for me with all this like primitive lifestyle shit, where it's like, here's what the Vikings did, so we should probably do that. I'm always like, those fuckers lived to be like 30 years old, right? Like, let's just talk about average lifespan, but not only average lifespan. It's not just about, because I'm like, I know that like lifespan hasn't increased a crazy amount in the last couple hundred years or something. But I'm like, let's talk about, if you encountered a 50-year-old man in Viking days, what that guy probably looked like. Just watch him get up from a chair and walk around the room. You know what I mean? And you'd be like, I would think I was in a retirement home right now. It is a hard life. And so that's the whole thing, is I'm just like, I don't know, guys. I don't know if the primitive lifestyle is all it's cracked up. I don't know that solves our health problems. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah, women were so depressed and are depressed now, and it's because, they have jobs or something. And I'm like, maybe, guys, maybe women were always depressed and just nobody asked before because no one gave a flying fuck about it. Just a thought. You know what I mean? It's like, as someone who's been depressed on and off and at different times, I'm like, well, I don't know if it's so much that, I'm disconnected from the old times. It's like, yeah, I guess you don't really have time to be depressed when you have to collect drinking water every day. You know what I mean? If I had to walk 2 miles just to have water to drink, and it's like, well, I've got no fucking choice but to do that. Yeah, I suppose there is an element of I have no time to be depressed, but I don't know that that's a good thing. It's like, well, isn't that just masking depression with activity? You know what I mean? Like, am I really not depressed, or am I just unaware of my depression because my pure survival depends on, I don't have time to really think about it. There's no opportunity to be happier. You know what I mean? Like, there's not like much difference to me of like, well, I walked a mile to get water and I felt shitty the whole time. Or I walked a mile to get water and I was whistling the whole time, having a great time. You know what I mean? I feel like that's the thing, is like people have this idea of, oh yeah, I'm whistling my way down to the stream where I get some water, and then I'm cooking up an elk steak because I, hunted an elk yesterday, and like everything's great. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know, man. No refrigeration? Pass. It's like, in ancient times, we never even used to cook the food. And I'm like, yeah, I suppose that's perhaps true, but what percent of people died of food poisoning in those days? I bet it was high. I bet it was quite high. Anyway, finished this primitive shower, and so I'm 10% stronger than I was before I did that, and went downstairs, and sure enough, the water heater is just like shooting water all over the floor. And not just from like a valve or something, like it seems to have been cracked. You know what I mean? It seems like, I'm pretty sure it's done. I'm not a plumber or anything, but I was like, ooh, I don't know about this. And then looked at the sticker on the front, and it was like, this was installed in 2007 or something. And I was like, yeah, 17, 18 years. It seems like right about in that wheelhouse of how long these things last. So, call the landlord and do that whole whole thing. But so we've been without hot water, but I didn't realize that would mean we are without any water with which to shower. I guess there are certain appliances in the house that have like a balanced water system. So you, if they're that, then you can't use them at all if the hot water is shut off. So no showering and no dishwashering, which is kind of a bummer. And Poon Master Flex is like, well, we could, wash them by hand, which is what I used to do. And the place we lived before this had no dishwasher. I'm like, we could. I guess that's what primitive man would do. I guess that's the right thing. That would make me happier and healthier, wouldn't it? Isn't that just what you want? For me to do that? I'm putting the entirety of the, concept of these wellness practices of primitive man. I'm putting that all on Poon Master Flex. It's her idea. But yeah, that's right. Like, people are like, oh yeah, take a cold shower. That'll fix you. And I'm like, will it? So then I shouldn't eat off of plates. Ancient man never ate off of plates. I'm like, ancient man didn't do anything that I'm doing. So how do we know which of those things are actually worth doing in order to recreate primitive man? And then how do we even know they were happy? What was the happiness survey they took? Did anyone even... It's not like... I can't fucking imagine primitive man like turning to his best friend in the whole world, whose health he cares about more than anything, and saying like, how are you feeling today? Just emotionally. Like, did they even have... Was that even a concept? Did they have the language to express that? Was it possible for them to even consider that in any substantive way and then evaluate that? And then even if it was, which it wasn't, but even if it was there any way for them to pass that on to us? My personal theory on all that shit, by the way, is that here's what you do. Let's say I'm like a wellness person and I want to come up with a protocol, which is what I call it if I'm like a hardcore, or, a life plan or something if I'm a less hardcore, but, same brands of bullshit. And what you do, here's what you want to do. You want to make it hard enough or impractical enough that it's kind of hard to actually do, or like most people are going to do it at least slightly differently. Because that way, what you can do is when someone's like, I did this whole thing and it didn't do shit. You're like, well, talk me through your daily implementation. And then they're like, well, I didn't do a cold plunge every day because I didn't want to spend thousands of dollars a year doing this, or like getting a cold plunge tub or whatever. And then I'm like, oh yeah, well, you didn't really do the program, so therefore any failure of the program to produce results is your fault. You know what I mean? You didn't do it, so yeah, of course the results only come if you actually do it as I told you to. You're not doing the program. You're not doing the full protocol. This is not like just a bunch of stuff I made up, okay? This is not just a bunch of things that I randomly assembled into, a thing that I'm calling a protocol. I wouldn't call it a protocol. That's such an official word. If it wasn't a protocol, if it wasn't incredibly, importantly official. So, yeah. We, so my landlord came and he was like, I guess he had already resigned himself from the get-go to just get a new water heater as opposed to fixing it. Probably he knew how old it was, and I sent him video of it, and so maybe he sent that to a plumber or something. But he comes over, measures some shit, and then goes to Home Depot and buys a new. Okay, this person's not going to attempt to get over in the lane, I guess. He goes to Home Depot and gets a new water heater and leaves it in the garage. was kind of funny because yesterday, so he's had family in town, and it's like 20 people at their house. And he was telling me about it, and they did this last year, and he's doing it again, I guess. He's like, oh, yeah, we've got all these people in town. And I kind of laughed, like, oh, my God. And he was like, yeah, that's what they said, the people he had in town or whatever. And he was like, I guess, he's like, it was a lot. And it's like, it's hard to have 20 people at your house and all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, I would think so. I was kind of laughing out of that feeling of, there's a story Chuck Palahniuk tells about laughter where he's like, they watched something where he was, okay, hold on. AET N46 Dodge Ram. AET N46 Dodge Ram white. Guess who's getting reported to the Rolling Coal hotline, motherfucker? There's a hotline you can call for that, by the way. So, just so you know. AET N46 Dodge Ram white. Guess who's getting called in for that? And now I've got it on here, recorded on audio. Booyah. I'm using a hands-free microphone, by the way. I got a lapel mic recently. So, I don't have to do anything. Don't have to touch anything. So what I'm doing is safe and legal. Yeah, he seemed a little on edge, and I didn't blame him. And I was like, I'm sure this is the last thing he wants to be doing now that he's got a moment of free time, is like buying a water heater and watching, the income for this property sort of vanish. I felt for the guy. You know what I mean? I have a good relationship with our landlord. Like, he's not like an evil landlord by any stretch. I think what he's charging us is more than fair. But anyway, it's just living in a house. I fixed our dryer like 2 weeks ago. It feels like 2 weeks to me. It's probably been like 2 months. Poonmaster Flex would probably say it's been 6 weeks. I would say it's been 2 hours. Because I'm like, something breaks in this house every 2 hours. But I like completely disassembled the dryer. Figured out that the heater element was broken. Replaced it. It now works a lot better. I was like, oh, this must have been kind of busted for a while. But it just, living in a house and home ownership, that's why home ownership scares me. Because I'm like, it just feels like when you buy a house, you're like, what I want to do is stuff to my house all day, every Saturday. You know what I mean? That's how I want to spend my life, is maintaining a house. And not only is it's not just like HGTVing it. You know what I mean? Where you're like, well, now I'm happier in this house. Like, this is a more functional space. I built a pantry. You know what I mean? Building a pantry, I'm like, I could see it. It's a one-time activity. You build the pantry, and then all your food goes in there. And, you have more room for food to go in, which seems like a big win for me. Because I'm like, well, more room for food means more food. Okay, let's do that. But it's not shit like that. It's never shit that you want to do. It's like, the garbage disposal doesn't work anymore. You're like, oh, great. Okay. That's a fun replacement job. It's like living in a house to me feels like I'm living inside of a person's body. I'm living inside a living body, and it's slowly dying all the time. And I'm constantly making heroic, necessary efforts to keep it alive. Right? Like, that's just what it feels like. I don't know why I feel that way, but I do. Because it's like, well, you have your regular bills, your garbage, your water, your all that stuff. And that's just sort of your ongoing maintenance. And then every 2 or 3 weeks, you're like, okay, well, the freezer, refrigerator line, the thing that, lets cold water or cold air go from the freezer to the fridge is iced up again. So, you have to fix that. and you have to watch like 5 YouTube videos, and then 2 of them suggest you do something that the other 3 are like, whatever you do, people are going to tell you to do this. Don't do that thing. That would be dumb. I'm like, okay, that would be dumb. All right. But, yeah, it just feels, that's what it feels like. Home ownership to me just feels like signing up to be inside of a dying corpse, and you're just propping it up. You know, you're standing inside of a circus tent that's collapsing, and you're just trying to hold it up. And you realize as it's collapsing that a circus tent weighs like 10 tons, because you're like, oh yeah, I guess that much material that's like waterproof would be quite heavy, and, you know, is able to be taken down and put up hundreds of times, if not thousands. Yeah, I guess that would be a heavy load. And all I want to do is be a clown in the circus. I don't want to maintain the circus. I just want to be a clown. Screw around, have fun. You know, I've got these important podcasts to record. How am I supposed to do everything? Well, hey there, chums. I may have just done a dumb. I'm continuing this episode, running a different errand, going to the post office, because that's the washing machine happening. I did a dumb. Well, I didn't do a dumb, but I kind of did a dumb, which is that okay. I guess I did do a dumb, and then did another thing that isn't as dumb, but was dumb. About, I don't know, 2 years ago, maybe? I crushed my toe with a weight plate. So I was putting weights back on the rack, and I missed, sort of, and it came down right on my big toe. I ended up going to the emergency room, or urgent care, or whatever, which is hilarious because they have the board of like, why are people in here right now? And mine just said toe pain, which I was like, I mean, that is true. I can't deny that I was in there for toe pain, you know, but I was like, I mean, and yeah, I would rather, if someone's like severe chest pain, I'm like, yeah, maybe talk to that guy first. Head injury. Yeah. You know what? Help her before you get to me. But, you know, I was like, I don't think everybody in here needs to know that I'm in here for toe pain. So, you know, and they drilled a little hole or burned a little hole, I guess, in my toenail to let the blood out, and I lost the nail and so on. What ended up happening is this seemed to have affected my shoe size a bit, because my big toe was like weirdly sensitive, and I think maybe changed shape a little bit, possibly because I had strapped it to the neighboring toe, you know, like in a splint sort of situation. And so I think it made it weirdly curved. So this changed my shoe size for a while. So I basically got rid of all my old shoes. I sent them to my brother, thinking he would probably fit a bunch of them, but I sent it to the wrong address, so he never got them. Someone else got them. And I can only assume they got this package and they were hoping it was something of value, and that they opened it and were like, ah, shit. You know, it's a bunch of moderately used shoes. And, you know, so I hope that helped them. Not at all. I guess I could, if I was a better person, be like, well, maybe they really needed them, you know, and so that worked out, but fuck that. Vengeance. So anyway, I got rid of all them, and I bought all new shoes of a larger size. But then, as the next year wore on or so, I was like, these really don't fit right. You know what I mean? They don't feel right. And I think it was starting to cause me some other leg problems. So then I was like, I don't think these 11s are what I need either. I think I need to go back. And, I got some new shoes of my old size, and sure enough, they worked great for me. So now I had a completely new set of shoes of a large size that I didn't fit. And they were all pretty new. I'd used them very lately. So I decided to go down the dark path trying to sell them on eBay. Which I did. I mean, that's what I'm doing. I'm taking shoes. But it's funny because, like, I look at, it's like, here's how much money you've made on eBay in the last 90 days. And I'm like, this is amazing. This is like practically a whole source of income for me. But I mean, that's dumb. Because, I immediately then remind myself, well, actually, this is money you would have had 3 times this money if you had just not bought these shoes in the first place. You know what I mean? You're not, like, dumbass, you're not making money. You're just not losing. You're recouping some of what you lost. You know what I mean? Don't think of this as making money. Think of this as you lost $100 bill, and then, or you lost $100 in 20s. Okay? And then you found 2 of them. Don't think of that as new money that you didn't ever spend or whatever. Think of it as you just didn't lose as much as you thought you were going to. So anyway, I'm going to the post office to deliver those. Isn't that exciting and fun? It's funny, like, selling things on eBay, because, like, I mean, I've made it difficult for myself the way just like I always do. And so what I did was, I've blocked a bunch of emails from eBay. Because I don't want, eBay is like just sending you stuff all the time. And I'm like, I don't do that much eBay where I want this. You know what I mean? I don't want constant updates or reminders from eBay. I don't need that. I just want, things that I need to know, right? I don't need to know when I bought something on eBay that the person sending it to me has printed the shipping label. I'm like, that means nothing, right? It's like, this is a funny part of shipping in the modern age is, outlets will tell you, like, the shipping process has begun. And what that means is they printed a shipping label. Being on the other end of that, I'm like, me printing a shipping label is really, really, really different from me, being able to honestly say, like, oh yeah, I'm sending this to you now. You know what I mean? The part I'm doing now is sending it to you. Printing the shipping label, last night in my bedroom, is not anywhere near beginning the shipping process. It's like, I don't need an email about that. You know what I mean? I don't need an email that it's like, it's reached a distributor center in Kentucky. And I'm like, I don't know why that would be, but okay. Thanks for letting me know. I don't need, like, they're like, oh, a seller has made you, someone who's selling something you looked at is making you an offer. And it's like, wow, they took 4% off the price if I'm willing to buy it right now, and it's like, yeah, I don't really care. You know what I mean? Like, a seller offer, sometimes I'm like, sure, if they're going to take a lot off, maybe I'd be interested. But for me, mostly eBay is like, I'm looking at things that it's like, oh, look, this isn't shit that I actually need. So really, I shouldn't even be buying it at all. So buying it at a cheaper price is, again, just wasting less money than I was before, but it's not wasting money. So, I don't know. So anyway, I don't get emails that let me know that I've sold an item. So I just have to check it and remember to check it, and I keep forgetting. But I don't think I've been technically late. But also I kind of don't care because I'm like, I have no plans to do a lot of eBay salesmanship. You know what I mean? I don't really plan to make a career out of this. Which I say now, which almost guarantees that I will need to sell something on eBay in the near future, and we'll have a hard time because, I got shitty ratings on this because I waited too long to set stuff. There's no better way to guarantee that I will do something than to declare that I'm probably not going to do it or not need it or whatever. It's pretty good guarantee that I'll need to do it. I'm still waiting for, it's Tuesday, and supposedly the hot water heater installer guy is coming today. And I did get a text from my landlord. He's thinking afternoon. I don't understand how do normal people do this? You know what I mean? Like, how do you get a water heater installed? Do you just take the entire day off of work? Just fuck it? That's the only way? Because you just don't know when they're coming. And then they're like, I don't know, I'm thinking in the afternoon. Although sometimes I think maybe the rest of us should operate this way. You know what I mean? Maybe at my job, I should just tell people, someone's like, I need a change on the website. And I'm like, all right, well, I've got 2 other things to do first. So I'm thinking middle of next week. And I'll be around in the afternoon that day. And then I'll need you to be at your desk while I make this change. You know what I mean? You'll need to be there, and I'll screen share with you on Teams, and you can watch me do it, even though you aren't participating in any way. You know what I mean? When we got our furnace fixed, because it just needed a new igniter, it turned out. But we got our furnace fixed, and the guy who was fixing it was like, here, I'll show you what's wrong with it, in case, I guess, whatever, in case it happens again, so you know what to do next time or something. And I was like, buddy, furnace is outside my purview. Anything that could blow up the entire house is something I consider outside my my realm. Do you know what I mean? It's like certain things, it's like the deadliness of it. The instant deadliness of it always gives me pause. Another one like that is like the garage door springs. Garage door springs are a thing where if you look at repair sites and stuff and Reddit, right? People are like, you could do it yourself. You could do it yourself. But then you do see quite a few people who are like, it's kind of dangerous, which I think is probably true because when our garage door springs broke, it sounded like a gunshot went off in the garage. You know what I mean? It was incredibly loud. And I guess they're pretty powerful and wound pretty tight. They're like Pete waiting for the furnace guy, wound pretty tight. And, it's something that I'm like, I know it costs money to have someone else come fix it. And maybe I could do it myself. But I don't know. Is it worth the risk? You know what I mean? Is it worth risking one of those flying off and hitting me in the face? I don't think it is. You know what I mean? I'm not sure that it is. The new water heater has instructions for installation on the box. And it's definitely my toxic trait is I see that and I'm reading the directions and I'm like, I think I could do this. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm not going to because my landlord hired someone to do it. And I always think about my landlord, right? And if I was a landlord, would I want my tenants fixing the dryer themselves? And the answer is no. I did fix the dryer myself, but I didn't tell my landlord because I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know if he'd want me doing that. I'm trustworthy. And I know I'm trustworthy because I'm not going to take on something that's above my pay grade. And also if I get into something and I'm like, this is going to burn down the house if I fuck it up, then I'm not going to do it. But this was a part swap. It wasn't so bad. But if I was a landlord and, the person was like, I could probably install this water heater myself, I think I'd be like, yeah, I mean, in my head, I'd be predicting they're going to install this themselves and it'll probably look correct. You know what I mean? But like, are they going to take it as seriously as, as they should, as I would? And, I guess you never really know, like, is a professional going to do the best job ever? Are they going to do it like they would do it at their house? But at the same time, I'm like, I guess at least it gives me some kind of comfort to think, well, they work for a company, and like if they fuck it up, I guess we can always call that company and be like, hey, you fuck ups, you fucked up. Which, isn't really going to help if my house exploded. But I don't know, it's something. I guess there's some kind of thing there. Whereas with like a tenant installing a hot water heater, I don't know that, if it was busted in 4 years because they did something wrong, how much recourse do I have there? You know what I mean? Even if I can find them again. Because, what's to prevent me from tenant who installed the water heater from just saying like, hey man, I did it right. I don't know who's living there now and what they've been doing. And I don't think you do either. So, let's just both walk away. It makes me feel so paranoid. I'm turning into, I don't know, a weird, paranoid weirdo. I think if you had, I'm trying to think of a scenario in which I would do like eBay store for a living. It does seem like it's possible in terms of if you have a little bit of income to start with, and then, I don't know, I think you kind of need a source of items that are cheaper than they should be. What I think is funny about probably making, I bet you that most people who like make a living do eBay sort of professionally or semi-professionally. I bet a lot of them are selling the most boring shit. You know what I mean? Like they are going back in the day, like the Habitat for Humanity Restore, like right now they have magnetic parts bowls, right? So they have like a strong magnet in them. And so like if you're taking something apart, you can put screws in there, and it just keeps things tidier and whatever. It's a nice little product that I think is very useful, but not exciting, right? It's not like you're selling old Spider-Man comics that you're like, ooh, I've got this slabbed and graded, and it's the first appearance of the Punisher and all this stuff. It's like, yeah, it's a little magnetic bowl for I don't know, screws and shit. Grandpas like these things. You're like, yeah, I guess I think that's the way if you want to be like a professional eBay person, is you go to the Restore and you find stuff like that, and they're selling it for, $4 a piece. You put them up for $9 a piece. You make $40 on selling all of them. You know what I mean? Something like that. That seems to me like the way to make the money doing eBay stuff. But the problem, right, is that it's going to be so unsteady and unreliable. Like you're just kind of waiting for something to come in, but also waiting for someone to price it inappropriately. Not horribly inappropriately, but a little inappropriately. I don't know. Sometimes I wonder too. I'm like, I wonder if like the people who, like probably the easiest way to do eBay, right, is if you sort of ran a thrift shop and you're like, well, I can get first crack at basically everything that comes in. That probably makes it quite a bit easier to do that. That's what I would think anyway. So, I mean, on the one hand, it's like, I could see eBay as a business in terms of like, when I think back to working at a McDonald's or a Pizza Hut or whatever, and I'm like, I think at that time, it's like, I would just have given anything to have a job where I didn't have a boss. You know what I mean? That's all I really wanted, was to not have a boss telling me what to do all the time. And it's like, well, yeah, maybe then if that's the space you're in, if you're like, I just don't want to have a boss, selling on eBay, you don't have a boss. And like, I do still carry that inside me. Is the idea of like, I don't want to have a boss. I would rather not have a boss than have a boss, even though my current boss is not like a problem. It's like, well, who given the option is like, no, I want a boss so that they could tell me what to do. I mean, I feel like that person is happier because they're just like, I just want to go to work and then have someone explain to me and outline to me what I should and should not do. And then I will do and do not do those things. And, then I go home. And that's life. I mean, yeah, I guess there is like the element of when you're the boss, you're responsible for everything, right? Like if you own the business, you're like, have to be invested in every aspect of it and so on. And that sucks. So I don't know, maybe. I mean, I wouldn't have a boss, except then you just have to be your own boss. And then your own fuck-ups are your own problem. I don't know if that's better or worse. I think the real key to eBay, the way to like cheat the system would be to quietly invent time travel. Maybe of a type where it's like, I cannot send people or organic things back and forth in time, but I can send objects through time. You know what I mean? Or I could send a message in time and basically tell someone in the past to like put something somewhere that I could get to it later. And then I would just instantly have it. So I'd be like, here's what I want you to do. Back to the Future is coming out on VHS. Go buy a copy. And, don't take the plastic off or anything. And just put it in a thing and that's that. Or like, buy a new edition, buy the new Marvel comics every month in the 60s. Just buy them all, put them somewhere and then I will recover them and then sell them. You know what I mean? And like, especially because if you could get commodities that it's like, were not hard to come by in their time and now are difficult. Okay. I want you to go to KB Toys in the mall and buy a new copy of Earthbound for Super Nintendo. Just keep it in the box. Don't open the box. Don't touch anything. Leave it wrapped in plastic. Just leave it exactly as is. Make sure the box doesn't get damaged. Put it inside another box. That would be such an easy moneymaker. Just buy any NES game and leave it in the box and don't touch anything. Because, like, back in the day, the box that an NES game came in, it was like a cereal box. You're like, well, I don't fucking need this. You know what I mean? Nobody, even the biggest maniacs didn't keep that shit. Even, like, the most pristine collectors of games. Even the kids whose moms were like, you have to deface your games with magic marker and our family's last name on it so that, I guess, other kids don't claim that this is their game or something like that. I'm always like, what happened in those families? Or, I get VHS tapes lately to do some crafty stuff and with the tapes and the boxes. Many families wrote their name on the VHS tape. And I'm like, what happened? Did one time, did your kid take a movie somewhere and then that family claimed that they owned it or something? And you're like, never again. And so you write your name on every single one. And I'm like, if this is how it is, you know what I mean? Like if I was in that situation, I was a parent and my kid had a sleepover and then their parents called and were like, hey, my kids brought over a copy of Terminator 2, which they weren't supposed to watch. My fault. But anyway, if we could get that copy of T2 back, there's no fucking way I'd be like, no, that's our copy of T2. You know what I mean? Even if it got to the point where I was like, I'm pretty sure this is our copy of T2. I know we have it, and this appears to be our copy. But, if the other parent was really insistent about it, because, let's do some math on this scenario. somehow they know that we have a copy of T2. So that's a little, unlikely. I mean, unless they're just sending their kid over to random people's houses in hopes of getting VHS tapes, and just being like, well, what movies do we want? And, I guess it could work in as much as like, if they didn't have the tape, they could just be like, it's not here. And I'd be like, shoot. I thought maybe our son had brought it over there, but I guess not. Oh, well. But anyway, I would be like, in order to suspect that they're trying to pull a fast one, I have to be awfully suspicious that they're doing a lot of weird things. And honestly, if they are doing those things and doing this much weird crap, I think I would rather just, I'd rather just sort of surrender my copy of T2 or buy them one if for some reason I didn't want to give up my copy, then continue to engage with this. You know what I mean? I guess you could send your kid over to other kids' houses with a marker and just have them write your family's name on their tapes. Just be like, just pick a good one. Write our name on it. It's ours forever. It's indisputable. The name in magic marker on the tape is indisputable evidence of ownership. It's been held up in many a famous court case. So, I don't know. But yeah, getting those tapes and like putting them on eBay. Probably, and those Nintendo cartridges with the box, all that stuff. Probably some of the like best options in terms of how much they cost at the time. I mean, I know Nintendo games and VHS were expensive when they first came out, but there's definitely a period. But also the return on investment of just not opening it, so ridiculously high. So high. It makes no sense. It's one of those like the world really doesn't make sense, does it? But yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to be a professional eBayer. Maybe the closest I could get is I professionally do a podcast while I drive to the mail station, post office. Good Lord. I do a post. Doesn't seem like a likely scenario considering I can't even say it. I can't even get it out. That I do a podcast while I drive to the post office. And so the post office is one of the many errands I run. But maybe you could do DoorDash and podcast while you do DoorDash. And that would be your way of actually generating income, but also the activity that your podcast is based on is an income generating activity. You know what I mean? This is like somewhere in the middle between like a terrible podcast that like a real estate agent does, because they're like, podcasts are a good way to advertise the business. It's somewhere between that and like a real podcast. But, with a real podcast, it's like someone's like, oh, I'm going through Star Trek TNG episode by episode. But, no one's paying me to do that. I get paid to do the podcast. This kind of splits the difference. You're getting paid to do a job and you're podcasting at the same time. It's kind of brilliant. I'm kind of brilliant. But here's the real problem. One, I'm never going to get paid like a significant amount to do this. So, that's not going to work. Two, I don't think I could find another job that I could do while podcasting that also made me significant money. So, I mean, it's genius in a sense, but not for me. You know what I mean? It's a good idea for anyone but me. So, what a smart fucking guy I am. What a great person to listen to that you've selected. Oh, hey everyone. Running some more errands. And I guess you get to come with me again. What a time for you to be alive, huh? How fortunate. I was looking at, I don't know why I saw like 3 of them yesterday. It's probably one of those things where um, you notice something and then you notice it over and over. You know what I mean? You're like, um, all Jeep drivers drive like shit. And then you're like, well, once you have that idea in your head, you start marking it. But, any Jeep driver that drives well, you're like, well, that's an exception. And anyone else who drives like shit, you ignore because they're not driving a Jeep, right? That basic psychology thing. Confirmation bias, probably. Anyway, but I just saw a bunch of them in the last few days, which was like what I think is the dumbest bumper sticker, although it's not on your bumper, which is like it's a guy, it goes on the fuel door, and it's a guy like cranking down on the fuel gauge needle to try and make it be, keep it towards full instead of empty. It's like a little, restroom sign guy doing that. Basically, it's a joke that's like, this car gets shit fuel economy. You know what I mean? Which I find odd and funny, but also not funny, because I'm like, so you didn't just buy a dumb car because you're dumb. Or maybe you did, but like you're well aware that that this is a problem, so you just put this sticker on it. And like, to a very small extent, it does conform to, sometimes the way I deal with things, which is like, well, you just got to laugh about it. But here's the thing. I think for the most part, unless, okay, maybe somebody is driving a gas-guzzling car because it got passed down to them, you know what I mean? Or passed on to them from a relative or, some shit like that. In which case, I'm like, yeah, I mean, you just got to make the best of it, right? I could see it. You know what I mean? I might drive a car if it wasn't like anywhere near my first choice, but it was like passed on to me by a relative, or I got like an amazing deal on it. I could end up driving something that I'm like, I don't really like this car. This isn't what I would pick for myself, but and like probably driving a car that takes too much fuel is probably better for the planet than buying a new car, right? Like, I don't know. It's let's call it a fair guess that it would be close to breaking even, right? As far as just waste and whatever, seems like it would probably be close to breaking even, especially for me, because I drive like 1 mile to work when I drive. And that's pretty rare. So anyway, it's like the sticker would be funny to me, or, I would understand it if it was like, well, we'll just get a car. You know what I mean? You don't even know what you're getting. You just show up at the place and they give you a car. You're assigned a car by lottery. You know what I mean? And it's like, all right, well, yeah, there's nothing you could do about it. But that's not what happens. So I don't know. It's sort of funny to me that that's what people do. But it's sort of infuriating too, because I'm like, yeah, put a sticker on it. That'll fix it. You know what I mean? Anyway, I don't know why I've seen a few of those, and like I've seen them before, certainly for probably like a decade. But this is the first time that I was like, that's dumb. This is a dumb thing to have. It's a dumb little, I don't know. I don't get it. It's like, it's like, I'm way over analyzing a sticker here. But it's like, someone will have a bumper sticker that's something about like, I don't know, the Second Amendment, right? Like, I have guns. Usually they don't say that exactly. I am a person and I have guns. You know what I mean? But that's the general sentiment. And, I think those are people who are proud of having guns, You know what I mean? They're not ashamed of having guns, or they're not like, I've made a dumb decision to have a gun. Or like Marine Corps. And you're like, well, I assume they are proud of the fact that they were in the Marines, because I don't know why else you would get that license plate, you know? Maybe it does you some favors if you get pulled over or something. I don't know. But overall, I'd be like, yeah, I mean, you're probably not going to get a Marine Corps bumper sticker if you were like, I hate the Marines. I hate them. Most things, I feel like, are things people either are proud of or hate. And if it's something they hate, they're identifying as not part, if you have a Let's Go Brandon sticker on your car, then it's like, well, you're identifying yourself as not a fan of the thing that the bumper sticker is referring to. This is like one of the few stickers I can think of where it's like the person kind of saying, this is kind of a shit world we live in, and I've participated in it in a way that, is probably not the smartest. And here we are. I have no plans to like remedy this. I have no, other ideas. I just am like, well, I might as well spend $25 to put a sticker on that indicates that I know that this car takes more gas than it should. I guess I could see those being popular. Like, I would understand it a little more if I remember in like early 2000s, I think it was, 9/11-ish times, but I think even a couple years before, and it was like gas was like, I remember it being $5 a gallon, but that can't be right. But it was fucking expensive. And I just remember if gas was like as expensive as it's ever been, I'd be like, oh yeah, yeah, we're all kind of in that situation now. Even if you did get a fuel efficient car, you'd probably be like trying to save some gas here. But I don't know, stickers, vinyl stickers, probably a petroleum based product. So I don't know. What point am I trying to make? Who the fuck knows? Who fucking cares? I was listening to a clip from a podcast. I decided to listen to an episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, because I used to listen to that a lot, like at work and stuff. I mean, and a lot of it had to do with, I have Spotify Premium, and I listen to music or podcasts pretty much all day. Like, I'm not even kidding when I say 8 hours a day at work. And, many years ago, like 5 years ago, I would say pre-COVID, Joe Rogan was like, he had some interesting guests on that I liked, or some things that I was interested in, or sometimes he would have a guest on that I didn't really like, but that I was interested in hearing about, because I was like, well, this is what people who hate this guy are saying. And then I listened to it and I'm like, yeah, I don't like him either, but whatever. But I don't really feel, somewhere along the way, and it's definitely during COVID times, where he lost me big time, because especially now it seems like he's just like dead set on, well, he's still obsessed with like the vaccine and that hurting people. And he's still having on doctors who are like, the vaccine is, causing all kinds of harm and stuff. And it's like, guys, it's just not. We're all waiting for that other shoe to drop. And it's like, well, at some point, aren't we going to have to say, if I go another 35 years and then develop an ailment, are we going to be able to attribute that to the vaccine at that point? You know what I mean? When I'm 80 and then I drop dead of something, are they going to be like, it's because of that vaccine? Yeah. When I die at an expected age of a not surprise condition that many other people have, including unvaccinated people, how surprised are we going to, you know what I mean? How much are we going to say, oh, that's why? But Anyway, he's been so obsessed with that and so wrong about it that I'm just a little, I feel like he, this is my little like revisit of, I wrote a newsletter and it was kind of about listening to Joe Rogan and how I was like, I mean, I feel like a lot of outlets every so often do a story of like, I listened to 50 hours of the Joe Rogan experience and here's what I found. I just saw like the Daily Show just posted a thing and it was sort of about, it was like a little mini biography of Joe Rogan. And, it took a bunch of clips and stuff and was like a bunch of little jokes and it was all making fun of him, right? And that's fine. Like, I'm not like the Daily Show went too far or something like that. I'm just saying there's basically, I think, two ways that people take Joe Rogan, and it's either they listen to like everything he says or they make fun of absolutely everything he's ever said. And, I was watching the Daily Show thing and I was like, I mean, it's a little unfair, which, I don't think it was purporting to be fair. I don't think it was trying to be like a journalistic piece about who is Joe Rogan. It was taking that tone as a joke. But, it was like just a montage of him saying stupid shit. But also I was like, even as someone who is not a fan anymore and who, I would say I was a fan of, not a fan. I would say I was a listener, an occasional listener, depending on the guest, because I never listened when he had a MMA person on, and I never listened when he had a comedian on, because I was like, as someone who's listened to podcasts for like, since the dawn of their existence, since listening to podcasts, I've been listening so long. I've listened to so many podcasts that were recorded on a GarageBand microphone hanging from the ceiling in between everyone like it's a goddamn boxing ring. And, sounds about that good. Or like, I've been listening to podcasts so long that I used to listen to podcasts that were seriously, it was like AM radio, and they would put it in a podcast feed chopped up into, 4 or 5 minute episodes. Like each segment between a commercial break was an episode of the podcast. That's how fucking long I've been listening to podcasts, okay? It's like grandpa of podcast listening. Because of that, I've heard many podcasts that are basically comedians talking about comedy. And I've heard many of them that I enjoy. And I've heard many that, I haven't necessarily enjoyed the show like as a series, but I've enjoyed episodes of. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that's a horrible thing to do or whatever. It's just not a topic that I am super interested in. Because I kind of think when comedians talk about comedy, sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's interesting. Sometimes, though, I think it's like they're asked questions or they're talking about things and someone asks a question like, how did you come up with this joke or something? How did you find your way into this material? And then they're like, I've never really thought about that before, but I guess I've blah, 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 blah. And it's always when they get into that, I guess, blah, 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 that I'm like, is that real, though? Or are you like, I've never thought about it. I don't actually know where that came from. And so now I'm just going to manufacture some kind of answer because I'm talking into a microphone. Which is fine. I think everyone does that. Everyone being interviewed does that, and it's like, why did you do this? Or like, where did this come from? And I think very few people, like, as someone who writes books, who writes things, I'll say, like, it's a scary thought because if someone asks you, like, where did this idea come from? It's scary that the answer is like, I don't know. It just happened in my brain. You know what I mean? It's sort of like asking, there's a tree out front of my house and there's a bird nest in it. And it's like, where did that bird come from? And I'm like, who knows? It was just there. I didn't know, and it's like, when did this bird start coming here to build this nest? I have no idea. Like, I noticed it at some point, and it was there. By the time I noticed it, it was there. So that's kind of how I feel about comedy, and like comedy podcasts and interviews and stuff is just like, I don't know. It doesn't bother me. I don't think the people are like intentionally deceiving me or some shit like that. It's just not very interesting to me. You know what I mean? I just think it's kind of boring. Anyway, all that aside, I listened to another Joe Rogan because Bernie Sanders was on, but I guess also I was just like, I wonder if, I wonder if Joe's got the magic back. I don't know that there ever was magic, but magic's probably an overstatement. But, I don't know if he's tolerable for me. And it wasn't. And I think it was during this episode, but it may have been during a clip I saw where, because you watch something on one platform and then YouTube is like, oh, you want to see some Joe Rogan clips, don't you? And I'm like, not really. And then I see it's, he's got some quote unquote vaccine damage expert on, and I'm like, oh, I have to see it because I have to know. I feel compelled. But he had somebody, or it was when he was talking to Bernie, don't remember. Doesn't matter. This is turning into like, I was at Sears. No, JCPenney. No, it must have been Sears because there were tools. Did JCPenney have tools? I saw a clip and he was talking about AI. And like, everyone talks about AI. I've talked about AI way more than I should because, I'm not qualified. But they're having this discussion about AI, and it was like, Joe was making the same point that he always makes, which I think I used to be a little more on that side, and I've completely changed. So he was like, the problem with AI taking everyone's jobs is like, what are people going to do? You know what I mean? And like, a lot of people derive meaning in life from work and stuff like that. And, if AI takes everyone's jobs, they're not going to have any meaning anymore. Like, we have to figure out how to give people meaning and stuff. And I was like, bro, okay, first let me just say, I've had those thoughts as well, to an extent. I remember talking to my sister a little bit about it, because she said something about, I don't know if it was AI or universal basic income or something, and it was like, well, people would have more time to read books and read poetry and paint paintings and stuff. And I was like, I don't really think more people are going to do that stuff, because I kind of think that people who are going to read poetry and paint paintings are probably doing it anyway. I think that like most artistic pursuits are like not something people pursue because they just don't, they don't know what the fuck to do. So they're like, oh, fuck it, I guess I'll read a poem. I'm that desperate for entertainment. I kind of think more people write poems or read poems or either because they're like, that's what they like to do. And they would probably do it, whether they were just had all the time in the world, or they're like, I'm in a bunker that's being bombed. You know what I mean? And this is something that gives me meaning in my life. Or, sometimes with writing stuff, I'm like, I think it's really more or as much a compulsion as anything. So I don't know that it's like reasonable for me to be like, oh yeah, I think a lot more people would write books. I don't think that. However, I have big disagreements when people talk about AI taking jobs or universal basic income being bad, because what are people going to do? And I'll tell you why. Because this is a podcast, and, that's what I do. I tell you things that I think in my brain and record them onto a microphone. That's how podcasts happen. Well, for one thing, I think continuing to like send bullshit emails and do these dumb jobs that we all do just for the sake of like, what if people don't have, just to avoid an existential crisis, right? It's like, well, if we're busy enough, we won't notice that our lives are meaningless. That's a dumb reason to continue doing those things, right? Like, we all agree it's like, I mean, Joe Rogan of all people is probably in that like, isn't it weird that everything's just kind of a distraction from the fact that like our lives have no meaning? You know what I mean? I guarantee you he's been on shrooms and said something like that. I'm sure there are many clips of him online saying almost that sort of thing. And so like, if a job is just basically a way to mask the fact that our lives have no meaning, I don't really know that forcing people to continue to do that is good. Is that any better? You know what I mean? Also, it's like work is a thing that gives a lot of people meaning and they get their meaning from it. And I'm like, well, I think that's probably a misunderstanding. Yes, some people, Poon Master Flex is a maniac that way. Like, her job gives her meaning and she likes it. And, she would probably do something similar to what she's doing. She would work if she didn't have to, for sure. She might work like part-time or work a very different kind of job, but she would definitely work. But I think for a lot of people, it's more like, well, being able to provide for my family gives me meaning. But I don't necessarily think that's about like, it's important that I work super hard and, work 50 hours a week, that I pay for everything that's on the table, right? I think it's more like, well, it's important to me that my kids, have food to eat. You know what I mean? That my family does have food to eat. It's important to me that I have a home that we live in that, is reasonably comfortable. You know what I mean? Like, it's important to me to have transportation and be able to do things I want to do. It's important to me to be able to, like, occasionally go to a movie or see a concert or something. You know what I mean? I would like to be able to travel on a plane once every couple of years. I would like to be able to go to the doctor and the dentist when I need to. Do you know what I'm saying, though? I'm saying, like, maybe it's not the work and then having those things that's important. It's like, well, maybe it's just sort of being able to access those things that's important. But I guess the other thing, I really dislike when people talk about AI and people not having jobs anymore from that standpoint of, like, it gives people meaning. Because, for one thing, I think most times when people talk about that stuff, they're talking about people who aren't them, right? They're like, I don't need that. I'm smart. Like, I can find meaning. I can find things to do. But, like, you idiots, the plebes out there, you all need to be told what to do. You need someone else, someone smarter, someone, more successful to tell you what to do. And, so, that's part of it is I'm like, everybody who's in that side of anyone who says that, I'm immediately suspicious of, because I'm like, oh, I think that they're saying this is what everyone but them needs. And whenever anyone says something that falls into that sort of line of thinking, I'm always immediately suspicious. But I think the other part is I'm like, that line of thinking and the way Joe Rogan presented it is very much like, well, you know what we should do is we should figure out how to give people meaning, and then we could, they don't have to work anymore. And I'm like, no, 100% no. I very much disagree with that. For one thing, you should also disagree with that because you should be like, I don't think it's the government's job to give people meaning. You know what I mean? I think it's the government's job to, like, provide safety and, like, enforce some basic law and stuff like that. But I don't really think the government should be responsible for giving people meaning. Because I don't trust the government to do that. Because I think if the government is in charge of that, they're going to be like, well, yeah, from work. That's good. This is good. Whatever gives us money for, whatever, that's probably meaning, right? That's meaningful. And I'm like, not really. But also, I think my disagreement is like, what if we tried it though? What if people stopped working and it's like, maybe we will have to, maybe we pay attention and we're like, let's see how people do. You know what I mean? Let's see if people are depressed. Let's see if certain types of crime go way up. You know what I mean? Let's kind of see what happens. But, I think overall people will be fine. And if they're not, why don't we deal with that problem? Do you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, well, instead of dealing with the problem of people not really finding meaning in life, what if we dealt with the problem? What if we dealt with that problem instead of dealing with the problem of like, there's no way out of the trap of working until you're practically dead. You know what I mean? Where people are like, it would be a fucking fantasy if I could retire at 55 when I'm still able to like do stuff. You know what I mean? I'm still able to live a life and, I don't know, do things that would be interesting to me. It would be nice to not retire and then be like physically or mentally unsound within 5 years. Because it's like, well, that was pretty much the end of my useful life. So how nice for me. Do you know what I'm saying, though? Like, I just feel like that's a different problem, and maybe we'd be more successful dealing with that problem. Because so far, I don't think we've been super successful in dealing with the problem of, like, life doesn't mean anything. You know what I'm saying, too? Like, not having a meaning in life because we aren't required to work, I think is a new and novel problem. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't really think this is a new problem. For people like me, for atheists, or people who, don't really believe there's an afterlife or whatever, and who don't believe that we're very special and don't believe that, I'm like, I think we're here by accident. And I think it's like a cruel cosmic joke that we're aware of whatever. It's like, Poonmaster Flex was telling me about, someone tried to study, like, do spiders feel fear or something like that. And, they were like, the conclusion was kind of like, not really, like, not like the way we do. You know what I mean? A spider probably isn't sitting around thinking, like, fearing something. I fear this thing happening to me, or I fear that thing happening to me. But, they make instinctual moves and motions based on just sort of outside input that they receive, but they're not like afraid that you're going to smash them. They just know, hey, if something big is coming towards me, I should get the fuck out of the way. And like, it's cruel that humans aren't that way, right? It's cruel that we know that to be afraid, or we know that like, oh, this isn't going to last forever. We know to think things like, could there be something after this? It seems like that would be unfair if there was nothing after this. But also, every scientific thing that I've ever known or heard would lead me to believe there's nothing after this. So yeah, I don't know. To me, I'm like, I hate that kind of talk because I feel like it's saying like, well, let's just keep everyone working for a while. You know what I hate about it? Let's all be honest with each other. I fucking hate it because I feel like what's going to happen is I will be like 70, and at that point they will have figured out like, oh, maybe people shouldn't work all the time. You know what I mean? Maybe we could be the last generation of people who like works 40 hours a week, and like within 50 years of my death, they'll be like, that was insane. Like, it was insane what they did to people. Did you know that you were supposed to like go into a building and sit there all day? All day. And they had the tools to, everybody probably could have worked half that much, and society really wouldn't have changed a whole lot. You know what I mean? If they just would have been willing to pay everyone the same amount to do the same-ish amount of work in half the time. I mean, come on. How is it possible that we have email You know what I mean? And yet we have email, we have printers, we have internet. We can instantly chat with anyone, anywhere in the world, and things still take just as long? What the fuck? How is that possible? So anyway, that's my big fear. It's not so much like all that. You know, I want either work to end immediately so I can benefit from it, or maybe it never, not in my lifetime. The day after I'm dead, someone's like, Eureka, I figured it out. That way I don't have to really know about it and be all pissed off about it. Sitting at home like, God damn it. And it's not pissed off where I'm like, these motherfuckers, if I had to work, they have to work. It's more that I'm just like, I just don't want to work. That's all. It's not that I want other people to suffer the way I've suffered. It's that I'm like, look, I just don't want to. And I feel like this is where things are headed. So, you know, I would strongly prefer if they maybe hit the gas and figured it out a little faster. That's all I'm saying.
Let's talk about bum wine, yeah. Asking the questions that nobody could. Like, where are the bone thugs and are they in harmony?